You remember the song We Are Young by Fun? Like a lot of people, I love that song. And I love the vocals. He's got such a unique, soaring, rangy, connected voice. About a year and a half ago, I get an email from Nate Ruess, this vocalist, asking me to teach him how to add distortion and a bit of screaming to his voice. I thought, okay, this is amazing. Yes! After many years off, he was in the beginning stages of writing a new album with his old band, The Format, and ended up producing this album with one of my favorite producers of all time, Brendan O'Brien. And that album released last month, and The Format is going on tour, and I get to go see them. Boycott Heaven. And every song is a masterpiece. This is a full album's worth of incredible musical experiences. And I had the amazing honor of being able to interview Nate and talk with him about rediscovering his voice after time off. We get nerdy with the voice. We discuss his new approach to writing lyrics and the things he's learned about writing and connecting with different parts of himself through this album. This is an incredible conversation. I present it to you now. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm great. It's been a few years since we talked.
It's been, I don't know. I don't know. Probably like about a year and a half.
Year and a half. That's probably about right. Yeah.
That sounds about maybe 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. And you texted me that you were working with Brendan, and I lost it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to work with him, and I mean, he's responsible for at least 3 of my favorite albums.
At least. Honestly, and if you just check the discography, you'll be like, oh, and that one, and that one, and that one.
Seriously. So, yeah, talk about your journey here the past several years. I know you pretty much retired.
Yeah.
And wanted to spend time with your family and got the bug to do more. And so you went back to The Format. And when we had originally talked, it wasn't The Format. I think it was just solo album, or was it always going to be The Format?
I don't know. I was just writing. All I was doing was writing. It was going to be a Format album probably last time we talked when I said that I was going in with Brendan.
Okay.
But I even sent it to Brendan right even before it was going to be a Format album, like some of the demos,
Okay.
But yeah, it's been weird. I just started I kind of taught myself how to play guitar when I got bored because my kids were going to school.
Yeah.
And I just, the way I always wrote songs was just with my voice. Like I would just write a full song with my voice, kind of figure it out after that. And I was like, well, I always wanted to learn how to play guitar. So I taught myself just a couple of songs, and then weirdly that went from being like, I never want to play a show ever again or write a song ever again, to just suddenly just being completely back in it. But it's just better terms, just more enjoyable, and then so sometime in the middle of that, as I'm writing these songs, I'm like, man, I would really like to learn how to scream.
Right.
And that's how we met.
Right. Yeah. I got a text or an email. Hey, this is Nate. I'm a Grammy Award winning singer and songwriter, and am interested in learning how to use distortion and scream. And I kind of had to do a double take.
Did I really lead with I'm a Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter?
You did.
Oh, God. It must have been because I was like, I need to get these lessons.
I think you were just trying to get my attention, and you got it. Because
it's not something I use. I don't use it when I go to when I go to a restaurant. I don't use it.
No.
If it's pulled over.
Wouldn't think so. But yeah, I mean, and I recognize your name, and then, but Nate Ruess is not an uncommon name, I guess, but
right.
Yeah. So you resurrecting your voice, resurrecting your passion for writing, and what was it like to sort of get back into singing?
It was good. It was great. I think, I think it takes the right songs. Obviously, if you're writing the right songs that you want to sing, then it's different. Yeah. Singing is, it's so taxing on, especially if you're a belter like I am.
Right.
No matter how well or how proper you do it, which I mean, I do it properly, but it still doesn't mean that it doesn't take a toll on you physically.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when you're just sitting down in your like basement studio, just
Totally.
recording yourself.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so I mean, it feels good. It feels good to sing again. It took me a second to get kind of that durability back.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, but I felt like my voice was stronger than ever. And maybe it was the time. It was, I mean, I bet the time off probably like gave it a little bit. And since I was doing it in these short little
Sure.
bursts of recording, it wouldn't go. So it just worked so well. And then I'd maybe go work on it. I'd give it a few days off and then go work on a song. So it was good. I haven't had to drop the songs like full step yet. I always drop them a half step live just because I need all
Why
the
not?
help I can get.
Sure. Well, and it's a
But I haven't
totally
had to
different.
drop a full step yet.
Well, it's a totally different environment, right? I mean, you can punch, take breaks, and mindfully consider each line in the studio, and then you've got to take some of that muscle memory and then adapt it live and sing not one song and then you're done for the day, but sing 10 or 15 or whatever. So, yeah, all the help you can get is great.
Yeah, all while like also like bouncing around and all that other good stuff. It's weird, it's been enjoyable this time around. And vocally, I was really worried at first, but but I've just gotten more and more used to it. It's like anything, when
Yeah.
it just takes time to learn, and I just had to kind of but as soon as my voice started getting used to the songs, like even like the new songs were such a nightmare to sing. And I don't necessarily know if they're any more difficult than any of the other songs that I've written. It's just that your body's just not used to singing them over and over and over again.
Right.
So now I've given them that time, and it feels that much easier, thankfully.
Well, the new songs are incredible. Just the writing,
Thank you.
the melodies. I want to go through several of them and talk about them in detail, both vocally and then also lyrically. But I
It's fun to talk about vocals because I don't get it's not like I get to talk to anybody about like vocal like
right.
it's a like nerdy thing. This That's why when you talked about it I was like, oh, this will be fun if we're gonna talk about vocals. Like
Yeah,
nobody's talking about
I
like
know.
singing.
I know. Well, it's I got to do this a couple of years ago with Chris Daughtry too, and
Hmm.
it was just so cool because there's always interviews that about personal lives and scandals or whatever, but but yeah, to just sit down and talk about the music. I mean, that's the fun part.
Yeah, totally.
I want to rewind though before we actually talk about vocals. You mentioned that you only wrote songs with your voice. So is this sort of Michael Jackson style where you'd record various things with your voice, maybe like an imitation guitar or chord progression bass, and then you'd have some other guy, I mean Sam probably, right?
Yeah, yeah. All my bandmates, that was kind of the writing process. Like there would be a few times per album where someone would bring a chord progression, and then I would just write a top line on top of that.
Yeah.
And I've had like success writing songs for like other people doing that. But generally, the way that I've done it for like the last 20 years is I'll hear a song in my head,
Uh-huh.
and then I'll kind of write the lyrics and melody based on what I'm kind of hearing in my head, and all the instruments will kind of come in and I'll bring it to someone and then they'll lay down kind of the basic structure. And then from there, like if it's a guitar solo, like I'd say probably 40-50% of the time it's something where I'm like singing it and stuff like that.
Huh.
Um,
And you
uh, so yeah, but now since I've learned how to play guitar, I'm like, oh wait, I like probably gave away so much money in publishing. Yes, and I didn't. I was just too lazy to understand. Like, oh wait, there's only 12 chords like obviously you've got so many like different variations of chords, but really there's only 12 notes that can go underneath this melody.
yeah.
Um. And So yeah, I. It's a lot more fun now when I can like kind of create a lot of the bed myself, and it becomes a lot more collaborative too because I'm
Sure.
not just trying to get something out of my head. It becomes more of like I'm bringing something to people and then we're kind of working on it from there.
Having a history like that, though, where your only tool for writing tools was your ear and your voice, and there's a certain freedom in there because you're not thinking about, oh, well, I don't know how to play this, or I don't know how to execute that, so therefore I'm not going to do that. You're not limited by what you know. You're limited only by what you hear and what you can imagine. And so to have a history like that and then learn the guitar, but then realize that, oh yeah, like you just said, oh, it's just notes. It can be whatever I want it to be. And then of course to have the collaborations where all these other music nerds are going, oh, I know what to do there. And I mean, I got to be honest, on Boycott Heaven, it's the eerie melody chord changes. You know, you go and you wail up here a little bit, and there's all these half step things happening with the vocals and the chords that just turn your head inside out. Did you write that on guitar, or did you?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it. Yeah. Like, that's that. And, but a lot of that is, what is that? Like, ignorance is kind of bliss type of situation. Because,
right.
I would be like, Brendan, I'm not playing guitar in front of you. I'm not doing it. And he's like, no, you have to track guitar. I'm like, but I'm not good. Like, I'm not good.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that I can write a song on guitar because I know how to write a song. And I know how to write a melody, but I'm like, I'm just not good. And he's like, no, there's an energy to it. And I'm like, and he's like, and sometimes there are chords that probably shouldn't be there. And I'm like, no, they belong. Like, I hear them in my head. Like, those chords belong. And he's like, yeah, exactly. And that's why we're going to just like roll with it and do those type of things. So, a lot of that is definitely just me kind of just fumbling around and being like, yeah, that works.
Yeah. And then Brendan and the rest of the guys sort of put brackets around it, curate it so that then there's an energy you can put into it when you're doing the lead. So cool. It was, I mean, working with Brendan is, and you and I could geek out about that. We could geek out about that for hours on end because we're both such crazy fans of so many different albums that he's done. And I mean, I said I liken it to when those, like, because I consider myself an old guy. Sorry, I consider us old guys. But I liken it to when the like old guys pay a bunch of money to go work with like baseball players. They do like a fantasy, camp. Sure.
I was like, this is like Sam and I would always joke, like, this is our version of like a fantasy camp, is getting to go in and make an album with Brendan O'Brien. And there's just nothing disappointing about him in any way, shape, or form. It's so amazing. And you can understand why all those bands wanted to work with him and why they all had so much success at the time and why all those albums sound as good as they do. Mm-hmm. And he really just plays such a massive part in that. And I was I was so flattered because he's always just been a huge fan of my voice and just my melodies. And, I go in and I'm much more of a like beast. Like I like the deep cuts on albums. Like, those are always my favorite. Pearl Jam No Code is my favorite of all the albums that he's done, and that's kind of like one of the weirder Pearl Jam albums. And he's like, one of the first things he said is, Nate, I'm gonna be honest with you, I only like the hits. And I'm like, oh man, that's such a, he's like, but I give everything I can to all the songs. And and he does, even if it's like a song that, but fortunately, I think he really just like loved making this album. And he was like, I'm just really looking forward to working with a great singer, which I was like, oh my God, that's like hearing Brendan O'Brien say that. Like, he's had Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell and Scott Weiland. I mean, even Zach De La Rocha, like,
right.
Like just all the greatest vocalists. And he's like, he has put me up there many times in talking about it, and I'm just like, that's all I need. That's all. That's like,
gives me shivers, man, to just hear.
Nothing else in my life like matters. Like, as a vocalist, just for him to be so complimentary in those regards, it's just like that's all you could ask. That's all you could ask for. For the music, for what we love, the type of music that we love. I'm like, oh, like damn. Now I got to really like put all of it into my vocals. And so we just had the best time.
And you probably have a bit of perspective. I think about you doing this album, and then I think about Higher Truth and the collaboration that Cornell and Brendan had on that album. And you can probably get this sort of ghostly sense of, oh, now you probably listen to Higher Truth differently after having made this album.
You listen to all of it differently. You listen because also just one of the most insane musicians I've ever seen, and Brendan is 64 and he's still and he's made a billion records and he still approaches it like this, like, if you see him on some of the rare interviews he does, he's very composed and he seems like he's just got it all like together, and you'd probably just go in and he would just very silently tell you to do this and that, and give suggestions. Now he is like a hyper adult. Yeah. And so he's like, it's like, okay, there's time to do percussion. He's like standing up. I got this one, like digging into a percussive box and stuff like that. And, it's just such a nerdy, amazing experience. And it made Sam and I just want to be that much better because you're amongst someone and having Matt Chamberlain on drums. It's just like, you're just among these people who are just so freaking good and they're so excited about the music too. And you're just like, okay, that's awesome because that's what I grew up, listening to you guys, just being obsessed with you guys. So in a way it's a compliment to you guys and it's also the ultimate compliment to us. Right.
Well, you definitely brought the songs, man.
Thank you.
I mean, track after track. I'm an album guy, right? I do like singles, and I've had to sort of accept the fact that people release the singles and stuff like that.
Right.
And thankfully here, your video's frozen. Wave your hand.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It sure did.
It's the reset button.
I didn't really hear any of this music until you sent me the album. And so I've streamed it now 3 times, just front to back, no interruptions. And I love the flow. There are, we're talking about hits. You have a way of writing melodies that are simple and accessible and earwormy. But then me as a vocal nerd, you have that same way of creating this suspense and this build-up, tension release with the way you climb in your melodies in different places and hit these notes that, oh, nope, I didn't think he was going there, but he did, and now I hope he goes there, and I hope he goes there, and then you go, and then it's like, oh, thank you! And
that's so awesome. I mean, it's an amazing compliment coming from you, like a crazy vocalist. It's like, yeah, thank you. It's that kind of dumb luck thing. And then it's also, if you have the ability to do it vocally,
yes,
like you kind of owe it to, it's not like you don't want to be someone who's like going, like doing some crazy Beyonce thing. And by the third chorus, you're just going fucking nuts the whole time.
Right.
There are situations to do that. But for me, I'd like to challenge myself melodically. If I suddenly have the chords or I have the melody and I feel like it's the right time, it's like, okay, how do I kind of deconstruct this and use my voice to kind of take it, somewhere else. And so, yeah, I think that happened probably, a decent amount of time.
Every song, there's these tension and release moments. And I also appreciate, and this is something I really appreciated about, Chris Cornell on every album. But as you go higher, the vowels, there's integrity to the vowels. And as you keep pushing, you're not slanting the word in or is to es. You're not opening up. You've got that. You can understand what you're saying the whole time. I don't even need to read the lyrics because you're not slanting as you go higher. It sounds effortless. It sounds rehearsed. But then there's this spontaneous energy that's also there. And I think diction, not over slanting vowels is a huge part of that. It's a huge part of that sound.
Interesting. What's an example of that?
Well, you do
not me specifically, just in general, like for your listeners.
Oh, well, so we'll use The Day I Tried to Live as an example, yes. Right? When or even Chris Cornell on his version of Billie Jean. That's probably even a better example because, yeah. So the kid is not my son is a high note for him. It's the top of the melody. And typically when you're really reaching, if you are really reaching for a note, you might say something like the ked, because is a lot easier to vocalize. It's open, right? Versus it's easier to strain and stretch there, so you might just phone it in and say the ked is not my son instead of the kid is not my son. But he doesn't do that. It's the kid is not my son, and you understand what he's saying. Michael Jackson did that, of course, but Michael Jackson wasn't using the same sort of that, and you tend to do that. You tend to go up and go up and go up, and the vowel integrity is still there. And that's part of the charm of your voice. And part of what I noticed here, I noticed it on Human Nature. I noticed it on Boycott Heaven a ton. I love, we're going to have to talk a lot more about that song. But up there, you are on that vowel when you're really high. And it's just crystal clear.
I mean, you just try not to think about that stuff. It's so interesting to hear it after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because all I'm doing is just trying to make the words just sound like the words.
Right.
So that but also as I'm learning that, you can make, vowels sound, you can just sing different vowels to make it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I still just can't wrap my head around doing that because I want it to be, understood.
Right. Well, and you've trained the range, the mixed voice, and the way that you are dynamic with your placement, and so that's not easy for you, but it works for you. Right. You have the fundamentals down. And so when you go into record, you're not thinking about the fundamentals. You're thinking about exactly what you need to be thinking about. I want these words to be represented because this is what I want to say and this is what I want people to feel.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you adding distortion and screaming. These vocals, not only is your range all there, you're going all over the place as well as I've ever heard you do it 20 years later at 44.
Right.
So that should be one of those things that should tell people that, like, you know what? Age is no excuse. Be introspective, be disciplined, be creative, be non-judgmental. So there's one thing. But you have added a whole other thing. And it's not just on songs like Depressed or Human Nature, where you've got some of the techniques that we're working on. All over the place. You're turning up the heat on the grit. When you get high, there's this volatility up there that previously was so calculated, and now it's raw and a little bit. There's just a hint of someone in the background scratching nails on a chalkboard while you're. So talk about your journey building that in. I'm part of that was the lessons that we did, but just the psychology of it, how you practiced.
Yeah, I mean our lessons were just a huge part of that. Because I mean, my scream is still, it's still something that you really have to work on it if you're not used to it. And I've spent 20 years singing one specific way.
Right.
And when I came to you, I was like, well, I can't really get my voice to break up unless I go as high as I possibly can. And then at that point, you're just kind of screeching. And then we had to, kind of just take it back and learn that I can, vocal fry or whatever, I can start to like distort it. And I used to have to like listen to Pixies albums and just be like, I can't do that. But now, without just destroying myself. But now it's like I can kind of sing along and do those type of things.
Right. Well, it's peppered all over this new album. Not just the overall, on Depressed, there's some parts where you're full on, false chord, volatility, the harnessing that voice crack vocal break technique that we talked about and leaning into it. Yeah. And then there's stuff where you are doing that Chris Robinson. It's just enough. It's turning up the compression and being on the edge of clean, but there's a saturation to your voice that you're doing, not that Brendan's doing or that the mic is doing, that you're doing, and that is awesome. It sounds really, really good, and it's something that I don't know that anybody would say that it was missing from your voice and all the older stuff, but now that we hear the same voice with those capabilities, it's huge.
I mean, it's awesome for me. It's a great, especially someone who's trying to write, like, wanted to write a rock album, wanted to play guitar, wanted to just turn the distortion up, all those type of things. If I used to have to convey an emotion, an important emotion, it would just be like, how do I just bring, sing as high as possible in that moment.
Sure.
But now I don't necessarily have to sing as high as possible. I can, break it up, show the raw emotion in my voice, not by climbing high, but by like distorting a little bit.
Yeah. And one of the things I noticed, particularly on Depressed, and there's some other ones too, but your entrances to some of the notes. I mean, you would do that whole hawk sort of thing at the beginning and then lock into a pitch. And it reminded me of some of the stuff that Gerard Way would do on the Black Parade, where he's singing primarily clean. I mean, there's a little heat on it, but it's the entrances and the exits. And that's another thing I noticed a ton. I know we worked on that a lot, but this idea that how you get into the note can be really dirty and messed up, and then how you get out of the note can be its own thing. And then what's here is, it almost sounds more aggressive just because of here and here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's actually a very good point. And I never really listened to My Chemical Romance, but I do. What I have listened to, I have been like, oh yeah, that's a good. That's like, I like the way that he uses, that the aggression, and it isn't as typical as, someone who just might be screaming for a whole entire line.
What I was hearing when listening back to this, knowing some of the sounds that we traded back and forth, is that you've gotten to a point where you've trained some of these things in. Yeah, you're still working on it, but you've trained them in enough so that, like the vowel slanting we were talking about, when you're in the studio now, this stuff is comfortable enough so that when a particular expression comes about, it's here for you. It's another tool, just like guitar playing, right? Yeah. You don't have to go, oh, I'm going to add this false chord distortion at the beginning of this word. You've practiced it enough now to where the emotion that's flowing through you and the muscle memory you've developed sync, and then you express. And I heard that over and over again on this album.
Yeah. There's a B-side that we we recorded for the album, but it didn't end up making it. A song called "The Bar Is Set So Low," and I went back in and recorded it with Brendan a few weeks ago. We just did like an acoustic version, and the amount of screaming that I could do, I could scream the whole song almost entirely, and yeah, exactly. I know. I was like, fuck yeah. And it's not like I have to like, it's comfortable singing key too.
Yeah.
And for me, the words are just so worth screaming. But even Brendan was like, we gotta hear you sing a little bit.
Okay. Whoa. Wow.
And I'm like, oh dude, come on. You had like Zach, like he's like, Zach, 2 takes. That's all he could give us.
Wow.
Like there was just that much anger and aggression, and and he would talk about how other singers that he's had would have more of a quiet scream in the studio, stuff like that. So it was fascinating hearing that type of stuff from him too.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this conversation. I just wanted to make an invitation to you. If you'd like to work with me in discovering all that's possible with your voice, the best place to start is by clicking the link below in the pinned comment or video description and joining my free singing course. I teach you how to get the foundations, to think correctly about what's possible with your voice, and do all sorts of other fun stuff with a student in the room. I will help you pull things out of your voice you never thought were there. You hear 2 different things with Chris Cornell. You hear, during the Super Unknown era anyway, you hear Michael Beinhorn say, he busted, 4 U87s or whatever, and the guys, when he gets up into that distorted mix, he was so loud. And then you hear, I believe I heard on an interview with Brendan that he thought that Cornell was not that loud.
Yeah, that's, I think Chris was one of the people he'd mentioned as far as being like quiet.
And it's different eras, right?
Totally different era, totally different eras.
Yeah, he changed the way he used his voice later in his career.
Right.
I mean, majorly. So
yeah, if Chris is such a it's amazing because I always no ever like always liked Soundgarden, but was never necessarily a fan until I started writing this album. And I used to think that it was a little too metal for like too
sure,
his voice was a little too hair metal sometimes for me.
sure.
Now I love it. Like I love every version of it. I'm always been a Down on the Upside guy.
It's a great album.
And and I still am a Down on the Upside guy, but I've gotten so much into like the rest of the stuff, and he's just his ability was just unmatched.
Yeah.
I think he could go low too.
Oh, the brooding, crooning Frank Sinatra sort of sound that he was able to get, and then at the same time just kill you. That's what I love about particularly the Super Unknown and the Down on the Upside albums, both of those.
Yeah.
And if there was, to your observation about the maybe a little too hair metal, if there was any hair metal, it was all worked out completely by Down on the Upside.
Right.
Yeah,
it started getting a little more Zeppelin-y
and folksy almost.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a that's which I consider Zeppelin somehow like much more organic, so to speak. It's like a Mesa Boogie versus a Fender type
Sure, yeah.
situation. Which I God bless all of them.
Right.
I love all of them for sure. But I definitely felt like Down on the Upside, he kind of he used his voice and it just had more of an earthy feeling to it.
Mm-hmm. So when recording vocals for this album, did you do it at home with nobody around, or did you do it with Brendan?
Oh yeah, I did it with Brendan. I mean, so much of this album was demoed beforehand.
Okay.
Just because I have a studio.
Yeah.
And I learned how to use Pro Tools, and I was having fun learning how to, record myself and play guitar at the same time.
Right.
And write these songs. And just once I do so much work in my head because I write in my head, I'm able to just like go off and live a normal life while like just working out melodies and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, in my head at all times. And so I did a lot of heavy lifting before we went into the studio. The challenge for me recording vocals in the studio is then not being in my comfort zone of sitting here in front of my mic and sitting down. I have a chair, like this weird chair that has like moved with me from like across the coasts and stuff like that. It was part of a set of like horsehair chairs, like some weird old vintage chair, and I could play guitar on it because it doesn't have arms. And so I had to bring in my horsehead chair into the studio, and it's still there. I left it there, and I think a lot of people have subsequently used the horsehead chair as for tracking since.
Nice.
At Brendan's studio. But
wait, so just to be clear, you sat down recording all these vocals at Brendan's studio in the horsehair chair.
I tried to, yeah.
You're not standing up. You're sitting down. What we hear is you sitting down.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love hearing that.
I mean, except for when, there are times, I also felt like a lot of stuff deserved to be stood up on. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I could do it sitting down, it's just like, Nate, like, don't be lazy. But I'm trying to make myself comfortable. The biggest challenge for me recording vocals is headphone mix. So for me, like, they could, Brendan and our wonderful engineer Kyle could talk about the few times, because I pride myself on trying to be so easy to deal with in every scenario. I've been in the studio enough times. I've been with awful people in the studio. I've probably been an awful person in the studio a few times. And, in this second go around in my life, I've just been like, I have to be just like the most gracious, most pleasurable person to work with. And it makes the environment, everything's just so much better when you're just nice.
Right.
When you're like a good person, like no matter how mad you are at so much shit, don't take it out on anybody else,
Right.
but they knew the time. I would get like pouty if my headphones wouldn't sound the way that they sounded when I was sitting in my studio recording by myself.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of like uh, Kyle, our super sweet, unbelievable engineer, would have to like take my vocal demos and take a lot of my vocal chain from my vocal demos and put them into this. And a lot of it made it onto the album. I mean,
Hmm.
even the first song, No Gold at the Top, the whole first half of that song is just my demo.
Oh, wow.
And we just kept it. We
Sure.
kept it there because it just had some sort of like kind of lo-fi magic to it.
Hmm.
There were a couple times in the album where it was just my demo. Um, and so yeah, so I just had to get it's hard getting in that like kind of headphone comfort zone. And
Yeah.
I've been in the studio with Pink,
Right.
and that was her biggest challenge. Was like getting the right headphone
Get it
mix
to sound right.
and she would get like a little angry about it. And so I remembered sitting there at the time being with her, and then it was my turn to go sing, and I was just like, fuck this, I'm gonna show that like who fucking cares? Like
Right.
walking in and just belting it and just doing it, and being like, You only got to get down a few words, like, you know. But then I found myself in the studio this time trying to be like the nicest guy possible, being like, guys, it's just not working.
Ugh.
And then being like super worried that it wasn't going to sound good, and then everybody has to talk you off a fucking ledge,
Right.
But I think I've done, but I never. It's like as soon as I'm out of that booth, or as soon as I'm given a second just to think, you're just like you got to be able to just joke around and realize it's gonna get figured out. Like everything's gonna get sorted out. Like you can't to anybody who's watching, like try not to be precious. Like it'll get
Hmm.
sorted out. You'll end up sorting it out, and you'll probably, you could always stumble onto something that you didn't even know where you didn't even know you could end up. So,
Right.
like everybody, leave our wonderful engineers alone. Uh, vocalists, I know we can all be really, really pissy about our headphone mixes, but just give it time. It'll work out.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about because you have this sort of sanctuary in your own studio where you can fail and work out ideas and feel things out, and nobody's offering you suggestions while this is happening. You're like, you have what's in your head, you've been walking around with it all day, and now you've sat down and you can actualize it. There's that environment, and you take that and then you go to having your engineer and having Brendan in the room and having a time thing because everybody else's time is also valuable.
Yeah.
How does that, I mean, in addition to the headphone mixes, how are you able to make that transition? I mean, the vocals sound incredible on the album, but I bet there are things, and as you were doing it, there's like, it's not like the demo is better. What's going?
For sure.
Talk about that process of like adding people and brains and creativity and.
It's hard, but the people were just so between Brendan, Sam, my bandmate, Matt Chamberlain, and Kyle. I mean, we were really the only people who worked on. My kids and my wife came in for an afternoon before dinner to sing some group vocals, but
Oh, nice.
that was basically it for the whole entire album. So um, having those people, they're also complimentary, so you don't feel insecure. Brendan was always just like Nate, like you'll figure it out. It's fine. I never felt like, oh no, I'm doing something and everybody's judging me. And
You
it's
did
easy
feel
to
that.
get like, it's
Yeah.
easy to get like that in a room full of people. But I think if you can surround yourself with the right people, you can do enough work prior to getting into the studio. Because Brendan,
Yeah.
one thing about Brendan too is it's you got to have an idea because we're not just going to sit around all day. Like I used to just, it would take me like 6 months to make a record, and half the time would just be sitting around wondering what you're going to order for dinner.
Right.
Um, he just, he's got no time for that. He's just like, guys. And also like, we're going into the studio at like 11 o'clock, which is crazy. I used to just go in at 7 at night, and, we're done by like 5. We're just treating it so much differently. And it was just such a great way to go and make an album. And yeah, fortunately, I did a lot of heavy lifting before I went in there with those guys because I was terrified. especially with the nice things he said about my voice, I was like, okay, if I don't go in there and I'm not great like he thinks I am, like then I'm a fraud. So I really, really did a lot more. I don't consider myself to be some crazy. My work ethic is not great, but for this, I was like, we gotta be on top of it.
Yeah. I bet some of the thing that's interesting what you said about his compliments and his expectations of you based on him putting you on that pedestal, and then you initially feeling like, oh, I've got to live up to this. But then at the same time, his excitability and creativity and energy probably helped that go away pretty quick, because as soon as you guys met on this wavelength and you are getting sounds that you really like, then it's just synergistic. And
Yeah, and he's a big proponent of it's got to sound great at playback like right away.
yeah.
So when we went in and we went in, Sam, my bandmate, he was playing guitar, Brendan was playing bass, and Matt Chamberlain was playing drums, and I'm just working on vocals. And so we're working out, the drums of the song, because when I recorded the demos, it was initially just me on electric guitar and vocals, and almost like pretty big amounts of songs. And I'd leave stuff open, and then Sam would like work on bridges and stuff like that. Or like Boycott Heaven, Sam brought me the whole first verse with his vocals. He brought me the whole first verse and chorus, and I was like, this is amazing. He thought it was going to be a bridge for something. I was like, no. Give me like 2 hours and I will come back with an entire song. And so from there I just wrote just the rest of the song, like
So
all the
Boycott
lyrics.
Heaven,
That was a Sam chord progression. The up until the drums. Well, no, there's like a weird chord coming out of it.
yeah.
Like I basically wrote that and then figured out the structure like all the way after that.
What about the lyrics? Did he write the lyrics too?
He wrote the first verse.
Verse, and then you finished it.
Yeah,
Wow, I would have
it was cool.
not.
That was the most collaborative from a melodic or vocal standpoint that I've ever, because I never really not let, but I've always just been the vocalist and the lyricist. So I've always just been like, I need to write all the lyrics and all the vocals. And I mean, for the most part, all the songs too. But I would always like that I would never be even open to suggestion if people were like, oh, maybe you should change the lyrics or do this or that.
Yeah.
There are only a few other times where I've sung other people's lyrics.
And then you finished out the lyrics.
Yeah. Then I finished out the lyrics. I was inspired by it. I had already named the album Boycott Heaven, and I was just like, but I wanted a song where I kind of said it, and it just kind of worked perfectly.
Well, lyrically, first of all, I would have not expected that one to be a collaborative one because of the message of the topic is, I mean, you and I, again, we're the same age. We grew up as youth in the late 90s, and we were fed lots of the same stuff, I'm sure, in terms of what religion is, who God is, all that stuff, and then to see in the aftermath of a lot of that scene, if you even want to call it that,
right.
You see these artists or institutions and entities, they've crumbled. And I know for me, there's this sense of like, yeah, I was being sold something. I think you even used that phrasing in that song.
Probably.
I was being sold something that wasn't real. Like it was their version of reality, and it was packaged in such a way that never really added up to me.
Yeah.
And I love how you turn the lyrics around. You're holding on to something, and then at the end, you're holding on to nothing. And you have these open hands. You start like this, and there's confusion and anxiety and underlying distrust, although you wouldn't call it distrust. You don't know what to call it. You just know that something's not right. Yeah. And then by the end, you realize that, oh, it's this. this is what I need to do. I need to let go and not even try to define that one. I mean, I was brought to tears.
Oh,
The
thank
first time
you.
I
I
heard
mean,
that.
yeah, that was, like I said, that when Sam brought me just that first verse and he's singing holding on to something, letting go of nothing, I was like, oh, by the end of this, we gotta be holding on to nothing. Um, and then even just having kind of that little break and it's like, so let it go. That's another one that pull part is my demo vocals on that. But
Oh,
I just remember
really?
getting that and just being like, whoa, there's like with this first verse, there's absolutely somewhere to go. And you catch flack. People are like, oh, this is atheist or agnostic or whatever it is, and whatever I am. It's not the point. I think for me, Boycott Heaven was just the same reason why you would boycott anything is to try and make it better. Like clearly the old way is not working.
Mm-hmm.
Things need to change. And so for
Yeah.
me, it was like I'm like I think religion, if used properly, is an incredible thing. It's just not being used properly. It was not being used the way that it was intended. And so
All the time.
yeah, so,
Right.
yeah, like no matter what. And so it's like for I just wanted to say like you shouldn't be afraid to question things or
Yes. Yes.
be disappointed in what it is, and you can make that change within yourself, you know.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of what it means. I'm always like it's always so hard to explain because it started as me seeing like not having my glasses on and seeing something on like Twitter trending and it was like hashtag boycott heaven. I was like, oh, this is crazy. That's and then I like looked closer and it was boycott Heineken.
Oh.
And I was like, I was like, nah, boycott heaven. Like that's where it's at. And so then that's when I was like, okay, well, that's what the album's going to be named. And it's not, I would not say that this is a concept album necessarily. When I make albums, I always make sure that the first and last song are kind of figured out and everything in between and it flows kind of
Hmm.
the way that it does. That's something that I love just as someone as a guy who loves albums, full albums. I love that
Right.
you want your sequencing just to be
Mm-hmm.
pretty spot on. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of, I'm very, very, very happy with where it turned out. I mean, it feels for me so great to say, okay, I'm never going to write songs again. And I don't care. It's fine. I don't think that music defines me as a human being. And, and I'm so glad that I stepped away when I did because of what I have after the fact of, my family,
Sure.
and the situation that we're in. I could not imagine an alternate reality than the one that I have right now.
Mm.
Um, but coming back and doing it and working with Sam and going to work with Brendan, who has now I've become so close with him. Um, I mean, I can't not be just ecstatic about it.
Yeah.
And it makes me just like love writing music again. And I leave for tour in a few days, and I'm gonna be very sad to leave my family, but I'm so excited to see my friends. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to like get up and play guitar live and play these songs.
Right. So you're gonna play guitar on tour.
I'm gonna play guitar on yeah, and it's like if I mean I know you can do it, but singing and playing guitar is something that I've just had to like, and standing up and playing guitar.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
talk my horsehead chair. I don't get to bring my
Right.
horsehair chair out on stage with me. So
It's so
it's been a
funny.
challenge, and I'm looking forward to like fucking up a few times, but as long as I can stay in tune, I hope that people don't recognize it. Oh, don't notice it too much.
Well, I want to say one more thing about Boycott Heaven. The the way that it is structured, where you've got that we're holding on, and then we're letting go, and then you have, and I talked about it vocally earlier, where you have this high moany thing, and all these strange chords that you can't. It just sounds so off the cuff, yet you made it work so well. It's this wonderful journey of this and not being confused and angry and then you go through the worst of it, right? Almost this like half asleep, drug induced, things might be all over. I don't know if I'm going to make it through this kind of thing. And it makes you feel icky and inspired sort of at the same time. And then you come out of it And to have that answer of like, oh yeah, it is to let go. I mean, we've come back to that several times, but I just wanted to tell you what a gift it was for me to hear that. It just in my, even where I'm at, even the past several weeks with family and work and health and certain relationships, to have that come to me like that, the timing.
Thank you. That is, I mean, yeah, that's like the highest compliment that you could ever possibly give me. And believe me, I've had the hardest time making it through a lot of these songs. Like, I'll get up on stage, and I've broken down. I gotta say, like, we've only played a handful of shows, and I've broken down like 5 times on stage. And I don't know if it's I don't. Obviously, the world is a messed up place, and we're all trying to find our way, um and I think that stuff just bleeds into our normal lives.
Yeah.
um uh but it's been so it's and so much of it is joy, but also so much of it is like, I even look at it as, how can I have so much joy in my personal life, and then look around and see so much stuff that's just so hard to deal with.
Mm,
um
right. Well,
it's hard not to break down, and this has been the most moving album for me, for sure, that I've made. And so when someone is moved by it, like, it's just like the highest compliment. It's higher than Brendan telling me I'm a great vocalist,
mm,
is when it like works the way that it does. And it might sound cliche, but no, I mean, it's so sincere. And honestly, that like has made my week. I'm so happy to be talking to you, because just where this started, where we've ended up, and this is just
right.
such a great conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm extremely touched. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. I want to talk about a few more of these songs, and you were just talking about earlier this sense that you are right where you belong, and you're so thankful for when you took your break and being able to build into your family. And right where I belong is another one of those that, I mean, it's about your wife, it's about your family, and the line in there about if we're gonna grow old, I'm gonna grow old with you. And then following that, this idea that we're never really gonna die,
Yeah.
because we have this relationship that transcends what we know as life. And that was another one of those where I was just like, I've been married 21, almost 22 years, and we have teenagers now, and we've had family members starting to die or get sick, and our relationship with our parents is changing because they're old, they need help
Yeah.
now. They
Yeah.
and all this stuff, and to have someone by my side that, I mean, I couldn't have written a better song that
Oh, thank
expresses
you.
how I feel right now about my wife.
Thank you. I know it's I mean, it's to be lucky is to find the right person. Like, that's the ultimate, because it's not easy to be compatible with people, and when
Yeah.
it doesn't work out, it's nobody's fault and everybody's fault at the same time. So when you can
Right.
find the right person, and you're willing, and a lot of it is just being willing to put the type of work into a relationship,
Right.
and understand one another, not take things personally and stuff like that. I've been so lucky with my wife Charlotte, in those regards. And I didn't want to put, I don't even know if I wanted to put an acoustic guitar on this album. I didn't want to put a piano on this
Hmm.
album. And the last song ends with piano. There's just moments where it's like, you can't pass it up. This song needs to be acoustic. And that was something that we, in the format 20 years ago, kind of did pretty well anyways. So it did feel natural, and as a part of the album, just because of who we are. But lyrically, yeah, I mean, even that line, yeah, uh, no, we're not ever gonna die, or whatever it was. Yeah, that obviously, it's hard to make it through that
Hmm.
part. And then it's hard to make it through, the next verse, just talking about how much I've changed because of this person in my life. And then
Right.
you've got little kids, and you were so used to living your life. It's one thing that I've been proud of as a songwriter, and I'm glad I came back to being one is where I left music, it was also insular and it was all so much about myself.
Mm,
Um, and then something happens when you meet someone or when you have kids where you just realize that there's a whole different world out there that just does not
yeah.
necessarily circulate
Around
around
you.
you.
Right.
So it's made me just a better lyricist, just a more
Hmm.
aware lyricist. And sometimes, yeah, I like sometimes you have to take it in or like just I had to praise my wife. She's all of that and more. Um and yeah, she she doesn't refer to it as right where I belong. She refers to it as her song and I'm like, you can't be, don't be greedy.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, well, it's definitely her song, but it's going to be a lot of people's songs. That's a song that you can change a few things and play it at anniversaries.
Right.
Um and yeah, wow. Um you were talking about also earlier this idea of, you've got this life that you're so thankful for, and then at the same time there's all these people that it is not it is not
Yeah.
going well. And I
No,
mean,
not at all.
the world is such a so much ick. And
Yeah.
human nature, that's the one about Gaza, right?
Well, leave it alone.
Leave it
And
alone.
human nature makes reference of it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so both of those, human nature and leave it alone, just talk through those songs and your inspiration for those two.
Yes. Talk about not being able to get through something. I think, I mean, yeah, what is happening right now, the genocide that's happening right now in Gaza, and now all the crazy stuff happening in the Middle East,
Right.
it's hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore, and I live in an affluent community, um, and I've just seen the lack of empathy from people
Hmm.
on it because their lives are great.
Yeah.
They've got all the money that they need and everybody just gets to like live perfectly and they're not even paying attention to the fact that they're just I mean people just being murdered by kids
Yeah.
even and
Right.
and I
Right.
can't not internalize that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I've got kids, I can't not think about that and so for a song like Leave It Alone, I've always just been very, very pro-Palestine, and it's interesting because my kids are Jewish, my wife is Jewish.
Hmm.
It makes things a little tough, having extended family that's Jewish that feels totally differently than I do about things.
Hmm.
It makes things very, very, very testy, and it's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Zionism,
Hmm.
and that song is basically saying like, uh, I want my kids to see like just to see the injustices in this world. Um, and they're too young. It's too young for me to explain
Right.
what kind of awful stuff is happening right now. My kids, I think they know that I'm an activist about a lot of things, and they have to hear me kind of lecturing or fucking if I'm see something that is just making me crazy politically, like it's hard just not to keep it to myself.
Yeah.
And they know and I love that I think it's gonna I just I it's me just trying to say like there are people and it's gonna just it'll mirror them as they get older is
Yeah. It will.
they're like their kids right now there are kids dying right now for things that just should not happen should not even be and so for me just to say like as you grow up I would not be your father if I didn't say you need to understand the difference between right and wrong and yeah and so just wanting to hoping and I feel very confident fortunately that my kids are going to be the type of people who can even like who will do even more than I will not saying I do anything but writing a few songs and we're trying to do a lot of charity type of stuff right now and we've donated all the proceeds of Leave It Alone, that song specifically, all the publishing, anything written went to the Palestinian Children's Fund. So
Awesome.
all the money of that song will ever make forever will always go there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things where I was very lucky in a previous life to have written a lot of songs and made a lot of money doing that. That this time around, that's not a concern of mine. You
Mhm.
know, even in the format where we're selling merch as cheaply as possible, we're selling our tickets as cheaply as we can, just to still be able to afford to bring out a crew, have our band members do
Sure.
all that type of thing. But at the end of the tour, like Sam and I aren't looking at anything because people work so hard in their everyday lives
Yeah.
and they want to go to a concert and they want to just be able to let go from all that shit. And when people are overcharging them for merchandise, when people are overcharging them for the concert ticket alone,
Right.
it's so, especially like so many people at the top, they already have so much money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what? Why are you doing that? Like it just bums me out because yeah, because people work so hard. Regular people work so hard and they deserve an outlet. And it's our job as entertainers to like give them an outlet and not, if I had to go, if I had to go pay tickets for like a big concert right now that was like at a stadium or whatever, I would be like, I feel uneasy. I feel like I just had to take out a second mortgage just to see this show.
Right.
Like, and how gracious are you to your fans if you're stealing from them that much? And I understand it's hard to make money in the music industry today because they've taken so much at the top,
Yeah.
and now they just all of our songs are free and all those type of things, and the artists don't get paid the royalties that they're deserved as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
So I can understand, but I can understand it more so if you're someone who's trying to make a living off of it, not someone who's already made a living off of it.
Right. Yeah. Well,
So
you're this time around, you are 100% doing it for the joy of it.
yeah,
And that, honestly, when I got done streaming the album the first time, that is exactly what I said. Like, this is an album, and I love albums like this. You can tell that it was not driven by money. It was not driven by it was not driven by it was not driven by the pursuit of success. It was not driven by some sort of study. And it is so good. It's a good from top to bottom. It is a good album. There are good songs. It's connecting. And I think in large part, it's because you're channeling the success that you had in a previous life and going, you know what, you are giving, 100% giving here. And it comes across in amazing ways. I can't wait to come to the show on April 10th.
that's awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, just let me know. But I will not make you are obviously good to go as far as the list is concerned.
Oh, thank you.
It's the
Thank you.
least. It's the least I could do for this scream.
Right. Yeah, you just got to give me one or two live if you can.
I know, man. God damn. I will. I'll try, Chris. I swear to God, I'll try.
So talking about this shift that you've had from 15, 20 years ago and things being all about you and revolving around you, and that was your muse a lot of time, was just expressing the struggles that you were having or the joys that you were having, to now this big picture, writing songs about Gaza. I mean, who puts that word in a song, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
It's awesome. But Depressed is one of those that is a bit more
Insular, yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and at the same time, it's far more self-aware that it is that. Even the hook, sometimes I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Talk about that one. Talk about the writing, and then I'd love to hear, because that one's probably got the most harsh vocals on it, entrances and exits and stuff of anything that's here. I want to hear that B-side, by the way, sometime. But yeah, talk about this song a little bit.
Depressed was one that one of the first songs I started writing. And it's just like you learn how cool two notes sound together and then to make it dissonant. So it's an extremely easy song to play on guitar, but power chords like it's just I when I was playing the power chords, and they're all big and fuzzy, I was like, oh, this sounds kind of groovy. It's got like a 60s type of vibe to it. I don't know. There's just something that feels like you're kind of in the hot sun in 1966. Um, uh, Even though it's kind of a grungy song, but lyrically, I mean, a lot of it is about just kind of the music industry, coincidentally,
Yeah.
just talking about being chewed up and spit out. But I think it's just saying like sometimes it's just it's like a jolly way of because I do feel again like this kind of 60s type of melody during the chorus. Sometimes I get a little bit depressed. Uh, I just thought that it was funny to sing "I'm depressed"
Huh.
over like something like that. Sometimes I get a little bit
A
depressed, and
little bit depressed.
it's like no, you like yes. Sometimes like I get fucking depressed. Like a little bit depressed is a very generous way of putting it.
So
You know,
yeah, you're padding it, or you're lying, and you
I'm
know
making
you're
light. I'm
lying.
making light of kind of the fact that like it's like I feel like everybody gets depressed.
Yeah.
You know? And so it is universal, but it's almost I don't know what sometimes I don't know what my logic is behind things. I just remembered saying just singing sometimes I get and how that would rhyme with depressed. I was like a
Hmm.
little bit depressed and for whatever reason. And then it kind of I didn't feel like finishing the line. I felt or like I didn't feel like writing a second part to that. That's why I go oh because I was like the only thing that matters is that I get depressed. There's not I don't have to elaborate on that because it is
Right.
such it's just it's a statement that anybody can internalize.
Yeah.
So I just oh so I was like okay by the end of the song I better be like really screaming those oh-hos. And
Totally.
and I did it. I pulled it off thanks to you.
Well, I was going to ask, and you sort of just answered it, but did you go into this song saying like there's going to be screams, there's going to be this broken voice?
Yeah, it had to just if it's an inner monologue so much of that and it's talking about being depressed. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to end it where what I'm talking about being depressed or having just that noise in your head. So you can do that with the music, and it gets a little heavy
Yeah,
and like
broody and
fuzzy
yeah.
and so I'm gonna make sure that the vocals are taking us there too.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the other songs that you decided to be more gritty and utilize some of those techniques, were there any other moments on the album where you're like, yeah, this needs it, or were some of the other moments more just reactionary, you in the moment, not thinking about necessarily adding it?
I would mainly not necessarily thinking about adding it, which is a cool place to
It
be
is.
when you're taking when I'm taking lessons, and uh my lesson was when I was taking lessons, it was to find those specific spots to scream. But
Right.
instead, I found that I can just get in the moment and they can appear out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
Boycott Heaven's a great example of kind of that one.
Hmm.
During I think by the third chorus, letting go and nothing, or holding on to nothing, letting go, like
Uh-huh.
taking it up there and making it break up.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I was right there and I was like, this, let's like in the moment, in real time, I was like, okay, open up that. I don't know what it is, but there's a little spot that I can open up that
Yep.
causes the distortion.
Yep.
I was like, okay, let it open up right there,
Yeah.
and not feel the effects the next day of using my voice like that.
Right. And you weren't at the top of your range, and you weren't you could make a conscious or subconscious decision based on inspiration, and it was comfortable, and you did it, and it was expressive and balanced, and I mean that's
And what's even crazier, it's repeatable.
right. Yeah.
Because that's hard. That was the other hard thing is I could go in the studio and I could, sometimes get out a scream, but then I'd have to take six more takes to try and just like
Mm,
do it again.
right.
I'd be like, shit, that was cool. I had that. Um,
Yeah.
but now it's like every time I can repeat it if I want to.
Yeah. That is so
It
cool.
sometimes it terrifies me because I do still worry like doing this tour.
Oh,
I will be worried about how often I kind of break it out. But then the problem with me is I get so into it when I'm up there that it's just like I don't think like, oh, you've got 3 more shows right after this. And not that I even think that those screams would do anything, but it still scares me thinking that there's like more shows.
well, and you were saying earlier, no matter how dialed in you have your technique, you opened up this conversation about that, really. No matter how dialed in you are, you're still using stuff. There are high budget moments because you're belting, because you're up there using your mixed voice, and there's a lot of breath pressure going on. And so to adapt that experience live, yeah, there's a psychological journey there, and there's a physical journey. It's like you can be a good runner, you can be a good weightlifter, a good basketball player, whatever, and you still need to budget the use of your body.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually took my son on a 9-year-old run, or my 9-year-old son on a run the other day, a few days ago.
Uh-huh.
And he likes to just like start out fast, and I'm like, buddy, back, you got to get back, like stay back. And he doesn't understand. Even when he goes out on the basketball court, he's just like go the whole time. He's a dog. And I'm like, you need that energy in the fourth quarter. I appreciate the fact that you're like diving for loose balls and doing all that other type of stuff, but you got to be able to like kind of not lose it by the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, 9-year-old stuff.
Right. Well, I've got a 15-year-old who's doing his first year of track. And
Oh, wow.
having never really run, I mean, same as you, when he was younger, we'd go out and we'd go on little runs and stuff. But this is the first time that he's actually he's doing it, and he's excited about it. He got an Apple Watch, and he's like looking at all his metrics, and he's got this coach that's helping him train for things, and so he's nerding out. He ran his first 800, and he was like, man, I could have given a lot more for the first lap. So he's figuring out all the pacing, and it's
That's
super
really
fun.
cool, though. That's really cool. But that's what I have to do too as a vocalist.
Yes.
And it does get hard because you do get in the moment, and you think like, I want to give it to these people. Like I want to give them
Yeah.
this scream, or like I want to push more air than I probably should.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that this time around, because I don't have that ability. I don't have that same ability I used to have of playing 12 straight shows riding in a van, you know?
Right.
Like,
Nor do you want to.
not that I mean, sometimes I do. But that's pure nostalgia.
Sure.
But I do, I just have to, you just have to be smart. And it's hard. It's really hard.
So are you going to be on this tour? Do you already have, well, first of all, is it just the Boycott Heaven tour? Is this the set list? Or are you going to be pulling out some other stuff?
No. It's everything. It's just a format tour, essentially, you know?
Is there any fun?
No.
No fun. Okay.
No.
Just format.
No. Yeah, just format stuff. And we're lucky. We've just had a crazy cult following, like over the years. It's been insane. Our first show back was like an arena that sold out in like 2 seconds, you know?
That's so amazing.
It's just wild. And even this tour now, you know, there are just like a few tickets left. And we're just like, when we left, we were making a living doing it.
Yeah.
You know, when we left 20 years ago, and I wouldn't have been able to have fun if it wasn't for the format. Like,
Right.
you know, that wouldn't have existed. You know, so many people, when the format broke up, so many people, you know, picked me up, and we were able to, in a short time, you know, be the size of the format and then turn it into whatever we turned it into. But over the years, the format just started getting a crazy cult following. And so it's just fun to just see that and like look out. And I remember just having that first show a few months ago and looking out and being like, when I last walked off stage, you know, almost like 10 years ago, it was like younger people. Now I look out and it's like,
Right.
it's like a shit ton of people like my age, but there's like this, you just like, believe me, I want young people there. Like, but there's the weird, like, bond that you feel with these people, because you're like, we've all been through fucking life together, guys.
Right. It's so true.
You know, and I think there's a different thing when you're younger and you're singing, or when you have younger crowd, it's like, this is what you're going to go through.
Mm,
But now it's like, this is what we've been through.
right. Yeah, there's so much more depth of relation. I don't know if relationship's the right word, but you can look out there and you can relate to them simply by the stage of life.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've been following you, obviously they have been because they showed up again right away.
Yeah.
That's just got to be so gratifying and humbling in a way too.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's so humbling. It's so much different this time around. And it's just great to be doing it with, I mean, Sam, we've been friends since like my freshman year in high school. So many of these people I've been with for such a long time or have known for 20 plus years. And so it's just great to be back with your friends.
Yeah.
Obviously, you take detours in life. Um, and it's just cool that we can all end up
Right.
back here with each other and still have our lives elsewhere.
Yeah. That is so cool.
It makes
S-
rehearsing a nightmare
oh, how,
and insanely expensive, but
oh,
we figure it out.
because you just have to travel everywhere to rehearse.
Yeah,
Is that?
everybody's got to go. I mean, the tour starts in Boston, so I got to fly to Boston on Thursday. And at that point, we're there for like a week just doing like tour prep and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then, at like a rehearsal studio in Boston and all that. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's been fun for me to watch Sam through all of this because when we stopped, Sam started a merchandise company that's become like one of the biggest independent merchandise companies.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, so so he's still been involved in music this whole time, but he hasn't really been like, he hasn't been on tour, he hasn't done all this type of stuff. And when we're going through all this stuff, I'm like, oh, geez, if this first show is an arena, like we have to make sure that we have this and this and this. As your crew, you just have a whole bunch of like different like responsible people.
Uh-huh.
And when we left the format, it's like we're playing 1,000, 1,500 seat venues. Um, and our crew is just our friends and they're fucking not doing anything. Like
Right.
they're not being helpful. They're adding to the drama of it all.
Yeah.
There's so much infighting and these guys aren't helping it.
Right.
And Sam's like, well, what do we really need this? And I'm like, yes, we really need, like, we have to spend the money. We need this
Mm.
guy. And after the first show, Sam's like, this is so awesome to actually have people helping you.
Right.
And I'm like, yes, like it's fantastic. It makes going up on stage so much more fun. But it was another thing where Brendan was telling us, when I get in the studio, I always make sure that upon first playback, it sounds like the record.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I've been recording for the last 20 years. And in like the pop world, it's like, the drums are usually in the box and stuff like that. It doesn't
Right.
take much
Yeah.
for it to sound already like super polished.
Sure.
So I was like, all right, cool, Brendan, whatever. But when Sam heard the first playback, when it was Depressed, that was the first song we worked on. And when he heard the first playback, he was like, what is this? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're used to like going into like budget studios and it takes forever to massage it and make it finally sound good. And Sam was like, we should just release this now.
Right.
I'm like, no,
Oh.
I think we still got, 2 more months budgeted with him, but
Oh, wow.
we finished the record. I mean, we really just finished the bulk of it in about 3 weeks. And then we spent the next couple of months just like putting some finishing touches on it and really just hanging out and having a good time because
Hmm.
that was just the crew and the vibe that we had.
Right. So translating these songs live, are you already thinking of orders? We're talking about vocal budgeting, like let's put Boycott Heaven towards the end. Let's
Yeah.
put Depressed towards the end. And you're already thinking that direction?
Yeah, I've already written like 4 mock set lists. I want every set list to be different every night. And because we have such a big, huge backlog
Yeah.
and a lot of B-sides, and we have people who are just like crazy about B-sides and stuff like that. So it's like,
Right.
oh, wait, we got to add those in. What if we want to do a cover song? So, and I want every show because I love Pearl. I love that Pearl Jam can do that. They play
Right.
no show is the same.
Hmm.
And that's something that I've always done. I've never done shows with the same set list, no matter what. And so I've had to give people, a few weeks ago, I sat down, I wrote 4 different set lists just to say this is kind of what it'll look like. It'll change every single night, but these are like four variations that you can kind of make sense of.
Hmm.
And people, you know, they got to study it because there's transitions that we'll go through, and you know, I'll put in like speaking breaks,
Right.
stuff like that. Place where I need to like catch my breath. I'm very mad that I did not put more like jamming sections into this album.
Right. There isn't a lot.
So
Right.
I don't have like I'm like, oh shit, I got to get back and sing.
I think there's only like
Uh,
one guitar solo on
yeah,
the
there's only
album.
one. There's two guitars, two. Well, I mean, a half of a guitar solo. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's basically one guitar solo. Um, yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh, how do I find like time to because you know
Rest.
like people, especially if you're singing live, you got to be drinking water like the whole time. You got to be
Hmm.
hydrating like crazy, and you got to be making sure that you're just like catching your breath.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about that. What are some of your vocal health and rituals and warm ups and again, revisiting this whole thing, what are you doing to make sure that you're prepared on the grand scheme of things? And then what do you do right before the show and right after the show?
Well, I'm no longer a smoker, so that helps immensely.
You smoked.
Yeah, for like 20 years.
When did you quit?
Not 20 years, probably less than 20 years. I've quit about 7 years ago.
Wow. So all the stuff that I grew up listening to you on, you were
Oh,
smoking.
definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I quit
Crazy.
smoking, I think I quit smoking right after the Big Fun album.
Okay.
Um, just because it was not sustainable to be
Yeah.
doing that.
Sure.
Um, so
So you don't smoke
that
anymore.
that what's that?
So you don't smoke anymore. That's number one.
Yeah, that's number one. That's a huge thing because you just don't get sick every other day.
Right.
Um, uh, just drinking water. I had an uncle who sang on Broadway, and
Mm.
so I would see him, and he would always just talk about the importance of water and sleep.
Yeah.
And so those are two things that I have always like held as the highest.
Hmm.
And then and then let's see
Vocal
what
warm
else.
ups or cool downs.
Vocal warm-ups, yeah. Uh my good neighbor, my good buddy neighbor Adam Levine,
Oh,
uh turned me on to his like vocal coach who he used for his like warm-ups and stuff like that because he's like I love the way that I like, and it's been great. I have my vocal warm-ups. I use those for the first time ever. It's just like this whole album was a I really wanted to like take lessons and
hmm.
learn things.
Yeah.
I think it's just so important in life to like take lessons, be a good student. I keep telling I tell Brendan all the time, like, I'm sure I have this reputation, like I am easily coached, you know, like that I get very precious about the songs and it's got to be this. I'm like, I am easily coached. Just tell me what to do. And I actually do love to listen.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
It's when I'm not being told what to do that where I just like start to be like, okay, now I'm just gonna run the show,
Hmm.
for better or for worse. Um, so yeah, it's sleep, it's my vocal warm-ups,
Your Adam
it's
Levine vocal warm ups.
Adam Levine vocal warm-ups.
And are those just, runs, scales, breathing
Yeah,
exercises, stuff like that?
yeah, yep, yeah. Breathing exercises, scales, uh, yeah, just that. I make sure that, I mean, and I do it. I wake up, I do it on tour. I'll wake up and I'll
Yeah.
do it. I'll do a tougher one kind of before sound check. I'll give myself a few hours off, and then an hour before the show, I'll do another one, and then a tiny one like almost right before I go on stage. So I've been very just regimented. I think it's important to be regimented.
I totally agree. Do
I
you
well, I, what I was when I was first talking about it, I was like, oh, well, I'll just have this and whatever, you know, and cool down. And she was like, well, Adam does a cool down every night. And I was like, if Adam does a cool down every night, then I can do a cool down. Then I
right?
can do a cool down every
Yeah.
night. So I do that.
Do you ever warm up by singing parts of the songs that you're going to sing? Just sort of
Yeah,
walking around and humming them haphazardly, that kind of stuff?
yeah. And what's been a really crazy help is I've been in here like putting the songs on and rehearsing them. Like I'll put them on in my studio. I'll take the vocals off so I can just like sing it. I'll take the guitars off so then I can just like play it up like in Pro Tools. I'll have like the files and I'll just like separate everything. So I'll
Right.
have guitar and vocal that I'll sing. and I'm listening in headphones while I'm like standing and playing and singing, rehearsing, and and I'm singing in head voice for all like I'm kind of like
Yes.
singing it in head voice, and it's been a massive help.
Yes.
Just like toiling around singing them in head voice. It used to be stuff where I'd be like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit that live too. Like, well, I'm like half-heartedly singing it in head voice while I'm practicing.
Right.
Not going to be that hard to like get up on stage and do it. And it's made a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we talked about that some in our just spending time up there is like the best thing you can do for your
Oh,
entire vocal tract.
every time, anytime like if you're doing a cover song or something like that, and
Yeah.
it's a challenge at first, it's like give it a day, and you'll notice by day two, it's like anything in life. You have to break through kind of your fears,
Hmm.
and you have to be strong enough to work through those fears, but also acknowledge like everybody gets better at things by doing
Doing
them,
them. Right.
by practicing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like it's hard to know. Like sometimes you just want to get everything right away.
Uh-huh.
But it works with your vocals. If you're having a hard time singing something, you're almost reaching the note or whatever, just give it a few days of practice and
Yeah.
your brain or your muscles, more than I do, something figures it out.
Yeah. Yeah. The body is amazing. All of this, I mean, everything, right? The whole body, but it's just fascinating, right? We can make these two tiny pieces of tissue can vibrate together and create these resonances all over the place, and we can manipulate it and communicate emotions that can drive people to do all sorts of things and feel all sorts of things, and it's a gift.
It's weird. Yeah, it's a gift, and it is kind of like a gift. There's like a genetic aspect to it too, is there not? Like, because my daughter, is she now like she got cast in like the lead play. She's at 7. She just turned 7, and she's got singing. And when she sings, I'm like, her voice, it just sounds. I mean, her pitch is amazing,
Hmm.
but her tonality, and it's not like mine, but her tonality is just phenomenal.
Ah, ah. Well, you have to. She did, grow up around that, and there was also this, you're modeling it again, and she has
Right.
your genetics, but at the same time, I think, and I've talked a lot about this with lots of people, but finding your voice, like it's not just good right away. There's so many, and you can attest. You were just talking about that. Like if you can't quite do it, practice or whatever. Like there's mindsets, but I think people have this misconception of, and you could speak to this. Like when you first opened your mouth to sing the very first thing, and you thought you might be a singer, you didn't meet your own expectations, I'm sure.
No, no, not at all. No, I had to go listen to like Prince records in my car,
Yeah.
and again, it would be those type of things, Prince or Queen, um, finding, once I could hit these notes, then it's like, okay, well, how do I like, and you start my car was the only place where I could really go and
Yep.
just let it go,
Yep.
and belt it. So I remember just being in high school and like just doing a whole bunch of rides alone because I didn't want anybody else around me while I did it.
Totally.
And then on top of that, I'd be in punk bands and didn't have a PA. And so
Right.
I'd be trying to sing above the band.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I just got better at projection. And again, I
Yeah.
had an uncle who was on Broadway, so I do believe that there's a genetic aspect in that as well. You know, like I do think that most things that happen in life are luck based, but I do think that you can be prepared for when those moments
Yeah.
come, when you do get that luck.
Right.
You're able to show up in that moment. And I think a lot of, that stuff kind of put me there, put me
Totally.
here for when, yeah,
Yeah.
when I got lucky, like when I got lucky having a hit song and stuff like that. And
Right.
uh,
When hard work meets luck.
yeah,
When hard
exactly.
work meets, well, and people, right? Like you meeting people along the way as you're doing stuff. We're talking about the whole practice and, to give it a few days or give it a few years or whatever. It's the main thing is that you're doing stuff and you're doing new stuff that challenges you, that puts you in contact with other people, that creates relationships that that sharpen you and change you, so that when those moments come, you know to say, oh, yeah, I can do that. There's a confidence about you that.
Yeah, well, there's also a terror too. I think that sometimes that drives it as well. And
Hmm.
I would always, I'm at my most comfortable when I'm alone, and not amongst people. I'm not like a
Hmm.
people person.
Me
But I
too.
also understand that it just would not be good for my mental health if I just, you know, chilled by myself all the time. And so yeah,
Right.
I make it a habit to go out. My poor wife is like has to drag me to dinners and stuff like that. But I make it in, but it's not like I like go there and I'm like sitting there pouting or whatever. It's just like, all right, and I have to like, or if anybody sees me on tour or anything like that, it's not like I gotta try not to make my weird burdens anybody else's problem. And I think yeah,
Right.
being a nice person and getting out there and meeting people and stuff like that, I think those are also very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, Nate, thank you for taking the time to talk and just hang out. This has
Ah,
just
I'm so
been.
happy. This is so great. This is, yeah, I told you, I hate doing interviews and I have tried not to do very many for this. But when you floated it, I was like, this is actually like, I would love to do this.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful time. Um, yeah, I'll see you in April, and
Hit me up,
yeah,
text me. I'll
okay,
see you in April,
okay,
and we'll chat, we'll hang then.
sounds great, man.